People! 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 If I could, I'd like to just run through real quick, if you're unaware of what some of these budget cuts are or what they'll do, and why we're here, I just wanted to run through those just really quick. It'll just take a minute, but it'll get everybody up to speed on the types of things that we're talking about. Number one, and in this economy, you'll probably agree, among the very worst, destroy 700,000 jobs, according to an independent economic analysis. Zero out federal funding for national public radio and public television. Cut $1.3 billion from community health centers, which will deprive more than 3 million low-income people of health care over the next few months. Cut nearly $1 billion in food and health care assistance to pregnant women, new moms, and children. Kick more than 200,000 children out of preschool by cutting funds for Head Start.
Unforgivable.
Force states to fire 65,000 teachers and aides, dramatically increasing class sizes thanks to education cuts. Cut some or all financial aid for 9.4 million low and middle income college students. Slash $1.6 billion from the National Institutes of Health, a cut that experts say would, quote, send shockwaves through cancer research, likely result in cuts to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's research, and cause job losses. End the only federal family planning program, including cutting all federal funding that goes to Planned Parenthood to support cancer screenings and other women's health care. And finally, send 10,000 low-income veterans into homelessness by cutting in half the number of veterans who get housing vouchers this year.
Today we see government policy being drafted with a focus on the impact of making public sector employees more and more powerless. We see initiatives where the government is setting teacher working conditions, lowering teacher income, and reducing retirement and health care benefits. Realizing we are all dedicated to our jobs, in my 26 years of teaching, I have yet to see any other profession give as much time outside of their workplace for their jobs as teachers do. Government officials don't shape our children's education success. Teachers do.
That's right.
Right now, the government dictates time-consuming mandates and now seems willing to take away our voice through the channel of union and negotiation. In the big picture, who will we attract to this field in the future under this kind of oppression?
That's right.
Make no mistake, at the end of the day, union representation is freedom of speech, a constitutional right and an American obligation.
Yes.
Since we know that education is the key to a nation's success and economic growth, how then is it economically sound to take away financial investment in education to the point of penalizing teachers economically and take away their right to be represented fairly? Highly qualified teachers will leave the field and highly qualified individuals will look elsewhere to pursue professions. The impact to the America's economic future will be disastrous without qualified teachers who are adequately compensated. The cost of trimming a budget is too great if not shared evenly by all government workers and jobs, including Congress and all taxpayers. The cost is also a deceptive ploy to dismantle unions that would fairly represent the professions on Main Street they seek to protect. This is not government of the people, by the people, for the people. This is a ruse to take away rights and be controlled by a select power group who has an agenda that is not in line with American principles of democracy. It is an agenda to make an important national service and profession a service class without a voice. Today we come together to remember and remind others what America is all about. Let's not let the shrinking voice of Main Street America disappear. Let's restore it and renew the vitality of America that made this country great. Let's remember what has been done and must continue to be done to become a more perfect union. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
That was that, but we all know why we are here. But allow me to just take a brief moment and bow our heads to remember the suffering of the Japanese people, because suffering knows no national boundaries. So let's take a moment of silence, please. Moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, as you all know, last weekend was daylight savings time. Scott Walker went to bed Saturday night thinking that he could set back the clock 100 years. And thinking that he could ruin 100 years of Wisconsin progressivism, a word that is not dirty in Wisconsin.
That's right.
Wisconsin was the first state to enact a workers' compensation law, the first state to enact an unemployment compensation law, the first state to enact laws that protected workers to organize in the private sector, enacted the first public sector law, enacted the first fair employment law in 1945. And Scott Walker is trying to undo those 100 years. But I have news for Scott Walker. On Sunday morning, when his alarm clock went off, that alarm woke up everybody in America to what he's planning to do. We know that corporations like the Koch brothers and their so-called Americans for Prosperity exist for prosperity for a few, not the many. We know that the Koch brothers, when they try to prey on us, are praying to the Holy Trinity, their Holy Trinity, of privatization, deregulation, and elimination of social services. We must stand against corporate greed and against the power that corporate greed can buy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's recount what we believe in. We believe that human rights should not be subservient to property rights.
Yes.
We believe that human rights should not be sacrificed on the altar of corporate greed.
Yes.
Workers are not commodities.
Yes.
Workers have the right to negotiate their terms and conditions of employment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Healthcare is not a privilege for the wealthy.
Yes.
Civil rights and labor rights go hand in hand.
Yes.
We should not forget that coming up is April 4th, and that's the anniversary of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in Memphis, where he was fighting for the rights of municipal workers. Safety of workers and of consumers is not a privilege. The cuts in safety programs that protect the food we eat, the drugs we consume, and the health care that is provided to us should not be allowed to stand.
That's right.
A free public education is every citizen's right and birthright.
Yes.
Yes.
It should not be privatized for a few corporations. So we're confronted now with an existential question. And that question is, which side are you on? It's an old labor song, and you have to decide. Are you with the corporations who try to buy government, or are you with the people?
With the people!
Thank you.
And I went to the VA Health Services because somebody told me that I might be eligible, and I was. My first interview with the doctor, Dr. Kim, who was since retired from the VA Health Services, I requested a colonoscopy, and he said, well, because the Congress had underfunded the VA Health Services, he couldn't give me one, but he gave me blotting paper where you eat chicken and vegetables for 2 weeks, and then you smear your stool on a piece of just blotting paper for 3 days and mail it in, and if they find blood in it, then they'll give you a colonoscopy. 5 years later, I started having problems, so I went to the VA Health Service right here and demanded a colonoscopy. 2 weeks later, they gave me one. 2 weeks after that, they took 6.5 inches of my colon out. They found colon cancer, of course. 2 weeks in the hospital. 6 months after that, I started chemotherapy for 6 months. And then about a month after that, I had another operation because I had a hernia from the first operation the size of a regulation football. So they fixed that with the mesh. And then a year later, I had to go back in because my guts had shut down because my small intestine had grown into the mesh. And so they removed that and fixed it again. Well, anyhow, that's my story. It is the direct result because of the damned Republicans. I hope there aren't too many here. It has been their policy for years.
We're in a war. We are being inspired, believe it or not, by Egypt and by Yemen and Bahrain, because we see what happens when a government corruptly takes power from the people. What we need to do is continue to fight back and to stand up and to say we will not take it here in the United States of America.
Yeah!
You know, I want to make a bumper sticker that says WWJC, who would Jesus cut? Would it be the lower class workers who struggle very hard to make our lives easier? I'm a proud graduate of the Head Start program in 1965 and 1966 when it was first initiated, and I believe that contributed so much to my educational success. Do we want to have the poor children have their education cut? No! Do we want to see workers go without collective bargaining and the ability to make a decent wage while billionaires get richer? No!
Well, hello everybody, I'm Tony Waleski. I have 28 years of military service, and as I thought about that, I realized back in '76 is when I came into service. And the reason I came into service, or went into service, was in those days, if you, where I grew up anyway, if you were a policeman, a fireman, a priest, or you went into service, then you had respect, or a teacher. Those were the things that we all aspired to be. And part of the frustration I have today, you probably have today too, is that people like teachers are actually being attacked. And it's just outrageous. It infuriates me.
It's going to take 150 million Americans who are the working class that are going to make this change. And are you going to be part of it? Yes! Let's clearly identify the enemy before we begin our war. The enemy, in its most pure sense, is greed at the highest levels.
That's right.
As Jack pointed out, 450 Americans hold more wealth in this country than 150 million combined. And they're talking about the fact that we need to absorb those cuts? No way! We need to grab it back from that corporate piñata that's hanging over our heads. Because all of our money's been going right up there. And that's where it's sitting right now. But what they want you to do, let's make no mistake about their message. They want to change your attention. Don't look up at the problem. Look down at us, because they're looking down at us. And they're saying that we're the problem. Do we really need to cut our health care when they're having tremendous health care? No! Do we need to cut our wages when they make more in an hour than some of us make in 5 or 10 years? No! Do we need to absorb cuts in education when they're sending their kids to the best colleges in the country? No! Who's got the money? Corporate CEOs. Who's going to get it back? We are! Who's got the privileges in this country? Corporate CEOs. Who's going to get it back? We are! You want to take a pistol to a rally? Join the Tea Party. None of that's going to happen here. We're going to have peaceful protests. But the way we fight is through education, dedication, motivation. Say it with me. Education, dedication, motivation. Education, dedication, motivation. Fair! Share! Share! When I say fair, you say share! Fair! Share! Fair! Share! When I say people, you say power! People! Power! People! Power! When I say people, you say power! People! Power! People! Power! The people united will never be divided! 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 And here's why. Since we're here at the very center, I wanted to point out a fact that shocked me when I heard it. A fact that tore my heart out when I heard it. Every week in America, on average, 120. Now you look it around, we don't have 120 people here. But imagine this statistic with the people standing here. Every week, 120 veterans in America take their own lives. Every week, 120 take their own lives. Now it is from a variety of issues. Part of the issues are improper funding for the program. Because we need to do what? Educate, motivate, and agitate. That's the other new thing we're going to do as well, because we're going to agitate the heck out of the Koch brothers and all their buddies, because this can stand no more. Thank you very much. God bless America. God bless you. And let us begin this fight